there is the story that's told. Because in reality, stories are never ending and they've been going on before you took part in it. So the part of the story that's told, that is the part of the story that you tell or that I tell, is really the critical part in telling stories. For instance, a man went and bought a horse, and his friends who already owned horses were really excited. They were, oh man, that is so good. You bought a horse. The following day, that horse that the man bought, it ran away. So people who were involved in his life were, oh man, the horse ran away. Good Lord, right? Some days later, the horse came back, and when the horse came back, the horse brought a herd of mare, unbranded mare. So his friends like, oh man, you are such a lucky dude, man. That is exciting, right? During the course of time, as his son was breaking the mare, he fell down and broke his arm pretty bad. So the people who knew him were like, oh my God, he broke his arm. That's horrible. That's terrible. How could such a thing happen? Right? But alas, the following day, the village went to war, and all the other people who had sons that had to risk their lives to go fight the battle, they were looking at my friend, looking at the guy who bought the horse and says, my goodness, you're such a lucky sort, man. You're such a lucky sort. You don't have to risk losing your son because he broke his arm and he doesn't have to go fight. Right about now, I say to you, all of you listening, does the fact that the man bought a horse, was that a good thing or was that a bad thing? Is this a good story or is this a bad story? When you ask yourself that question, you're certainly going to come up with some answer, whether it was good or bad. I'm here to tell you that however you characterize the story is how the portion of the story that you came in at is going to affect you. So really and truly, it just kind of depends on when you came in the story, whether it's a good story, whether it's a bad story. If you came in when he broke his arm, you might think it's a bad story. But the fact is, it's just a story. The part of the story that's told at any given moment is really going to impact your life and the people that's listening to you tell the story. Because if you want to talk about how fortunate it is to have enough money to buy a horse, you can limit your story to the part that's talking about when this man went out and bought a horse, right? If you want to talk about how dangerous it is to break horses, you can talk about the fact that his son broke his arm while he was trying to break horses. So facts may tell and stories may sell, but for you and I, it is important that we tell the story that does what we want to have done. Because whether you are selling a product or not, we are all selling something all the time, even if that's just a belief in something. Like I'm trying to sell you on the fact that you can tell whatever story you want to and have that story impact you in a big way. And as long as you tell the story properly, it will impact you in a big way. For instance, let's talk about the Victor Jenkins story. One day, August 8th, 1952, the bouncing baby boy was born. Sometime later, he went into first grade. Sometime after that, he graduated from high school. Sometime after that, he went to the prom. And you go on with the story. Now, do you think if I want to sell you on the fact that I'm a great guy or that you want to be a part of my life, do you think I'm going to mention the part where I got kicked out of the military? I'm probably not going to mention that part. You think I'm going to mention the part where I suffered from panic disorders for 15 years? No, I'm not going to mention that part. So it is not necessarily the story that sells. It is the story that is told that sells. So as you search your mind and think about your life and think about the story that you have lived through or that you're going to live through, you will come up with better stories about you to tell. I also want to point out one other aspect. And the aspect I want to talk about is how you characterize the story before you know the end of the story. The great part about life is that you know me a while and you hear me always say what you think about, you bring about. And really, what I'm talking about is how your thought processes bring things to you. Your thought processes create neural pathways. That's the rails that bring things to you in your life. Well, as you make a characterization of any story, I want to encourage you to develop the mindset that whatever story you're involved in, you win. And you know, the odd thing about that is that if you can sell yourself on the fact, if you can create the story in your mind that you win, it increases the likelihood that you will win. Why? Because what you think about, you bring about. So as you reflect back on that man who bought the horse and who eventually had some challenges and who eventually did something else, I want to tell you, apply that to your story as well. And make a commitment this day that at whatever point you are in your story, you expect a good ending. And you talk about that good ending. And when you tell me about your story, you tell me the parts about your story that helps me have more faith in you, that helps me put my expectations out so that great things happen for you. So let's not just rely on the fact that facts tell and the stories sell. Let's focus on the story that's told and make sure that the story that's told by you is a story that's going to help you win. So until next time, do me a big favor, and I know you will. Have a good time.